Jai Hind. I'm asked a question. So, what happens if an officer does not know how to drive a four wheeler? Now, before I answer this, let me give out an incident that happened with me. I came from a family in 1980-82. We only had a scooter with us. So, I knew how to drive a scooter when I joined army and passed out in 1984. We did not have a car, so I didn't know how to drive a four wheeler. These days, the officers who come, mostly they are, each one of them knows how to drive a four wheeler. That time, that was not the case. So, uh, we had a commanding officer who was from para commandos, and his strict instructions were that no officer will drive a four wheeler, and especially the army vehicle I'm talking about. No officer will drive that. So my company was, we were posted in Mamun Cant, Pathankot, and from there we had our border areas or the field area in Jammu. Bobia was the place, which is our border with Pakistan. So my company was there, and we were to come back. I was to come back for some work in the battalion headquarters. So, we had an RCL jeep which was to come back with the gun mounted on it. When a gun is mounted on an RCL jeep, it becomes really, really heavy. So a lot of momentum, and four people sitting in it. So I was a young lieutenant then, and lieutenants in the army are kind of misguided missiles with a lot of energy, right, and josh. So I told that driver, okay, you move to the side, I'll drive the vehicle. So naturally, I was the officer in command, so he moved to the side. I had tried my hand on a jeep in plain area, but a jeep mounted with an RCL gun with full load of four people sitting is a different ball game altogether. So, and the road from border area to the highway was quite narrow, and these jeeps in field area, we always have two jerrycans filled of fuel put on, one on either side, and that makes the jeep a little wider than normal. And ahead of our jeep there was a tonga, a horse cart was moving, right, and it was fully loaded with passengers. And if you've seen this tonga, now this also has, his wheel has got some protuberance which is coming out. So while I was trying to overtake that tonga, the left jerrycan which was protruding outside hit the protuberance of the right wheel of the tonga, and the road and the side of the road were about 3 feet lower than the road itself. So there was a low ground all along the road. So this tonga, after it got hit with the jeep, it took a total 180-degree turn and fell down. So there was an old lady, maybe about 65-70 years of age. Her skin from the thigh got peeled, and I don't know, but maybe she was hit in the head also. So it was a sad state. Took me about a minute to realize what happened. I got down, and there was a grandson of that lady, about 13-14 years of age, who was accompanying her. So I put both of them in the jeep, asked the jeep driver to now drive the jeep. I sat on the co-driver's seat, and there was a hospital in Kathua which is about 40 kilometers from there, en route to Pathankot. So I drove straight to that hospital. There was no hospital before that. So I went to that hospital, admitted the lady there. Doctor examined her, and once the doctor said that she's out of danger, I had 400 rupees with me. 400 rupees used to be a big thing at that time. Our salary used to be about recently from 900 it had become about 3000 rupees. So 400 rupees was a sizable amount, and that's only I had. So I gave that money to that lady, apologized to her, and promised her that I will come back to look her up the next day. And then I left from that place for the unit. The bigger explosion was to happen now in the unit. This was a minor problem. The major problem was to confront the commanding officer, who had categorically said no officer to drive a vehicle. My driver was a decent man, so he offered me that, sir, if I say that I was driving the vehicle, then punishment will be lesser. So let me do that. So now the offer was quite lucrative, but I knew if I accepted it, I would never be able to command these men with pride. And so I politely declined the offer, though I appreciated what he wanted to do, take punishment for the act that I had committed. So I went back to the unit, gathered courage, and walked straight to the commanding officer's office, saluted him smartly, and I told him everything that happened, that how I was driving the vehicle and it was mounted with RCL, how I hit the Tonga, how the lady got injured, how I took her to the hospital, admitted her there, gave her some financial assistance, and I have promised her that I will come back and look her up the next day. Now it was his time to explode and me to withstand the explosion. But to my utter surprise, the commanding officer did not say anything. He left me scot-free. He said that though you made a mistake, but the actions that you have taken after that are quite okay, so I am leaving you this time. You see, if you do a mistake and you are penalized for it, so then your guilt is over, because you did a mistake, you made a mistake, and you got punished for it. But if somebody doesn't punish you for that, then it becomes a burden on you. And from that day onwards, till the time I myself became a commanding officer, I did not drive the vehicle. Though after I became a major, I bought a Maruti 800 and I knew how to drive properly. But then I never touched a Fauji vehicle till the time I myself became a commanding officer of the same unit. So that's why they say, whenever a commanding officer says something, it may not, sound very pleasant, but it's got a lot of experience behind it. That's why commanding officer is always addressed as an old man. Of course, when he's not in the listening range. And if you have to drive the Fauji vehicles, there is a way out there. Commanding officer has to authorize the officer to drive the vehicle, and then he gives a military license to him. Then only that person is entitled to drive. The civil license does not make you valid driver for a military vehicle. So the commanding officer has got the rights to allow you or not to allow you to drive a vehicle. So these days, so when I became commanding officer, I made sure that those officers who did not know how to drive, I got them together, put them through this learning session, and then allowed them to drive under supervision, and subsequently, of course, they could drive the vehicle on their own. But it's not mandatory that you should know how to drive a Fauji vehicle, and that's not a requirement for you to join Defence Forces. It is one of the skills that you learn. Of course, after that I went on to become a helicopter pilot and flew helicopters in the army. So that's a different issue, but this was quite scary, facing the commanding officer having done the mistake. So I thought I must share this with you. That's it. Thank you. Jai Hind.